The rain was hammering down on the streets of New York City as Roman stood shivering at the bus stop, his worn backpack slung over one shoulder and only $3 crumpled in his pocket. When the stranger next to him realized he'd left his wallet behind and couldn't pay the fare, Roman didn't hesitate. He handed over his last bit of cash, smiling faintly despite the gnawing hunger in his stomach. The man looked up, surprise flashing across his sharp features, and for a moment the downpour seemed to pause around them. "You didn't have to do that," he said, voice low and steady like it carried weight from somewhere far beyond this wet sidewalk. Roman shrugged, pulling his thin jacket tighter. "Everyone needs a break sometimes. Pay it forward when you can." The bus hissed to a stop, doors folding open with a groan, and they climbed aboard together, the stranger insisting Roman sit beside him even though the vehicle was half empty at this late hour. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows on the stranger's face. He was taller than Roman, maybe early 30s, with dark hair neatly cropped and eyes the color of storm clouds. Intense, but not unkind. Roman kept his gaze on the foggy window, watching the city blur past in streaks of neon and reflection. His own reflection stared back, 26, hollow-cheeked from too many skipped meals, brown hair matted from the rain, and a faded scar above his left eyebrow from the night his father had thrown him out 5 years ago. Back in Ohio, the words still echoed. "No son of mine is going to live like that." Roman had hit the road with nothing but a duffel bag and the secret he'd carried since he was 14. Loving men wasn't a choice. It was who he was, and it had cost him everything. Now he bounced between shelters and odd jobs, designing logos on a cracked laptop when libraries were open, always one step from the street. Kindness like the one he'd just given felt reckless, but holding back felt worse. The stranger cleared his throat. "Name's Elias. I owe you big time. What's yours?" Roman hesitated, then offered a handshake that felt strangely formal on a city bus. "Roman, and you don't owe me anything. Seriously." Elias chuckled softly, the sound warm against the rumble of tires. Most people would have looked the other way. Not you. They talked easily after that. Nothing deep at first, just the weather, the endless construction on Fifth Avenue, how the city never slept, but somehow always left you exhausted. Elias mentioned he worked in tech, but dodged details, and Roman didn't press. By the time the bus reached Roman's stop near the East Village shelter, Elias had slipped a card into his palm. "Coffee tomorrow? My treat. Least I can do." Roman pocketed it without looking, nodding once before stepping into the rain again. The shelter smelled of damp socks and boiled cabbage, but for once his mind wasn't on the thin mattress waiting upstairs. It was on the stranger's eyes and the quiet promise of a simple cup of coffee. That night, lying awake while snores echoed through the crowded room, Roman replayed the encounter. He'd learned the hard way not to trust easy smiles. His last boyfriend had promised forever, then vanished with Roman's last savings. But Elias hadn't asked for anything. Just talked like Roman mattered. Morning came gray and unforgiving. Roman washed up in the communal sink, combed his hair with wet fingers, and stared at the card. Elias Voss. No title, just a number and an address in Midtown. He almost tossed it. What did a guy like that want with someone sleeping in shelters? Still, hunger and curiosity won. He walked the 20 blocks, arriving at a quiet cafe with steamed windows and the scent of fresh pastries. Elias was already there, waving him over to a corner table. 2 coffees waited, black for Roman just like he'd mentioned on the bus. "You came," Elias said, relief softening his features. Roman slid into the seat, feeling the warmth of the mug chase away the chill that never quite left his bones. "Figured I could use the caffeine." Their conversation picked up where it left off, easier now without the rain drumming overhead. Elias asked about Roman's work, listening intently as Roman described freelance gigs and the dream of his own studio someday. Roman asked little in return, but Elias shared fragments. Growing up in California, building something from nothing, the weight of expectations that came with success. No mention of billions or boardrooms, just a man who seemed tired of surfaces. Hours slipped by. When Roman stood to leave, Elias placed a hand on his arm, light but steady. "Dinner next week? No strings. I like talking to you." Roman's chest tightened, part fear, part something warmer he hadn't felt in years. He nodded anyway. Walking back to the shelter, the city felt less hostile, the sidewalks less endless. But doubt crept in with the evening shadows. What if this was pity? What if revealing who he really was, gay, broken in ways therapy couldn't touch, sent Elias running? Roman had faced rejection enough for one lifetime. Still, he kept the card. For the first time in months, sleep came without the usual ache of wondering if tomorrow would be the day he finally broke. The following days blurred into a cautious rhythm Roman hadn't known since leaving home. Elias texted once, simple and direct. Tuesday at 7? There's a place in Brooklyn that does killer pasta. Roman stared at the screen in the library's dim glow, fingers hovering. He typed yes before he could overthink it, then spent the afternoon washing his only decent shirt in the shelter sink and patching a hole in his jeans. When Tuesday arrived, he rode the subway across the river, heart hammering louder than the train wheels. The restaurant was nothing fancy, checkered tablecloths, candlelight that flickered like old friends, but Elias had chosen a quiet booth in the back. He looked different out of the rain, crisp button-down, easy smile that reached his eyes. "You clean up nice," Elias teased gently as Roman sat. Roman laughed, a real one that surprised even him. "Don't get used to it. This is my interview suit." Conversation flowed like the wine Elias ordered. Stories of bad first jobs, favorite movies, the way New York could lift you up and knock you down in the same breath. Roman shared pieces of his past without the heaviest parts. The move east, the struggle to build a portfolio while sleeping rough. Elias listened without interrupting, nodding like every word mattered. Halfway through the meal, Elias set down his fork. "That night on the bus, you didn't know me. Why risk your last dollars?" Roman met his gaze, the candlelight catching the honesty he rarely let show. "Because I've been the guy who needed help and no one gave it. Figured the universe owed someone a turn." Silence stretched, comfortable. Elias reached across the table, brushing Roman's knuckles with his thumb, a touch so brief it could have been accidental, yet it sent sparks up Roman's arm. Neither pulled away immediately. Later, walking along the waterfront, the Brooklyn Bridge glowing like a promise overhead, Elias stopped. "I don't do this often. Meet someone in jest. Click. But with you, it feels different." Roman's throat tightened. The words he wanted to say, "I'm gay, I'm scared, I don't know if I can trust this," lodged behind his teeth. Instead he smiled. "Me neither." They parted with a hug that lingered a second too long, Elias's cologne clinging to Roman's jacket like a secret. Back at the shelter, Roman replayed it all. The touch. The way Elias's eyes softened when he laughed. For the first time, hope flickered, dangerous, fragile hope. But life had other plans. The next morning, his caseworker pulled him aside. Funding cuts meant the shelter was over capacity. Roman had 2 weeks before he needed to find somewhere else. Panic clawed at his chest. He spent the day pounding pavement, applying for anything that paid cash under the table. By evening his feet ached and his stomach growled louder than the traffic. When Elias texted asking how his week was going, Roman almost lied. Instead he typed the truth in fragments. Shelter squeeze, job hunt hell. Elias's reply came fast. "Meet me tomorrow. I might have an idea." They met at a park bench in Central Park, leaves just starting to turn. Elias arrived with 2 coffees and a folder. "My company's expanding the design team. Entry level, but it comes with a small apartment in Queens, company housing. Interview's yours if you want it." Roman stared, folder heavy in his hands. "Why me? You barely know me." Elias leaned forward, voice earnest. "Because I see talent. And because that night on the bus, you showed me something real in a city full of fakes." Roman wanted to believe him. The offer felt like salvation wrapped in questions. He accepted the interview for Friday, but doubt gnawed. Was this kindness or something more complicated? That night, alone on his cot, Roman whispered the truth to the dark. He was falling, fast and terrifying, for a man whose world he couldn't even imagine touching. The interview went better than expected. The hiring manager, a no-nonsense woman named Carla, praised his portfolio and offered the position on the spot. Move-in was Monday. Roman packed his few belongings in a daze, heart racing between gratitude and terror. Elias met him at the new place, a modest studio with a view of the river, nothing flashy but clean and safe. "Welcome home," Elias said softly, handing over the keys. Their fingers brushed again, and this time neither pretended it was nothing. Roman stepped closer, the air between them charged. I don't know how to thank you. Elias's smile was gentle. Just be you. That's enough. They stood there in the empty room, the city humming outside, and for the first moment Roman let himself imagine a future where he wasn't running anymore. But secrets have a way of waiting in the wings, and Roman's past was already stirring, ready to test everything new he'd dared to build. The first week in the apartment felt like stepping into someone else's life. Roman woke to sunlight instead of shelter alarms, made coffee in a real kitchen, and rode the subway to the office without the weight of his backpack dragging him down. Work consumed him, sketching logos, tweaking campaigns for Elias's tech firm, which turned out to handle AI software for hospitals. Colleagues were kind, Carla sharp but fair, and the paycheck hit his account like a miracle. Yet every evening when the door clicked shut, Roman's mind circled back to Elias. They texted daily now, quick check-ins, memes about bad coffee, plans for weekend hikes. Elias never pushed, never made it weird, but the pull between them grew undeniable. Friday night Elias showed up at Roman's door with takeout and a board game. Figured you could use company that doesn't come with deadlines. They laughed through 2 rounds of Scrabble, knees bumping under the coffee table, until the game forgotten and conversation turned personal. Roman finally said it out loud. I'm gay. Have been since I knew what the word meant. Family didn't take it well. Elias set his tiles down slowly. I know. And for what it's worth, I'm gay too. Not something I broadcast at work. Board prefers the straight tech bro image, but with you. I don't want to hide. The confession hung between them, raw and freeing. Roman reached out, tracing Elias's jaw with trembling fingers. Their first kiss was soft, tentative, like both were afraid the moment might shatter. When they pulled back, foreheads touching, Roman whispered, "This feels too good to be real." But reality had teeth. Monday brought the first crack. A colleague, Marcus, friendly enough in meetings, cornered Roman by the copier. Heard Voss himself got you the job. Must be nice having friends in high places. The tone dripped implication. Roman stiffened. It's not like that. Marcus smirked. Sure. Just watch your back. Office gossip moves fast. The words lodged like splinters. That night Roman canceled plans with Elias, claiming exhaustion, but really he paced the apartment questioning everything. Was he being used? Was Elias's interest just another power play? Elias sensed the distance and showed up unannounced Wednesday evening, rain soaking his coat again like their first meeting. Talk to me, he said simply. Roman let him in, words tumbling out. The gossip, the fear of being seen as the charity case, the old wounds from his father screaming he was worthless. Elias listened, then pulled him close. I hired you because you're talented. The rest, that's us, separate. But I won't let office bullshit hurt you. They spent the night talking until dawn, Elias sharing his own scars, a childhood with absent parents who valued legacy over love, a fake engagement to a woman for investor optics that nearly broke him. I built walls to survive, Elias admitted. You started tearing them down the second you paid my fare. The turning point came unexpectedly on Saturday. They drove upstate to a quiet cabin Elias owned. Nothing extravagant, just wood beams and a lake view. Hiking the trails, hands brushing, Roman felt peace settle in his bones for the first time. At the water's edge Elias stopped, voice steady. I want this. Us. No hiding anymore. Roman's answer was another kiss, deeper this time, full of the hope he'd buried for years. Back in the city Sunday night, Roman finally called his mother, the first contact in 3 years. She cried, apologized for the silence, but his father remained a wall of silence. Still, it was a start. Roman hung up lighter, curling against Elias on the couch as a movie played low. We're building something real, Elias murmured. Roman believed him. Until Tuesday morning when an anonymous email hit his work inbox. Photos of Elias at a high society gala with a woman on his arm, dated last month. Caption, think he tells you everything? Doubt crashed back like the rain that started it all. Roman stared at the screen, heart fracturing. The man he'd started to love had secrets too, and this one cut deep. Roman deleted the email, but the images burned behind his eyes. He avoided Elias's calls all day, burying himself in deadlines until Carla sent him home early. The apartment felt smaller, the walls closing in with questions. When Elias finally knocked that evening, Roman opened the door but kept distance. "We need to talk." Elias's face paled as Roman showed him the photos on his laptop. "It's not what it looks like." The explanation spilled out. The woman was his cousin, arm candy for investors who still believed Elias was straight. "I hated every second. But coming out publicly could tank the company, thousands of jobs, projects helping hospitals. I was going to tell you, I swear." After the next funding round, Roman paced, anger mixing with hurt. "So you were going to keep me in the shadows too? Like I'm some secret you pay for with apartments and jobs?" Elias stepped forward, voice breaking. "No, never. You're the only real thing I've had in years." The argument stretched late, voices rising then falling into exhausted silence. Roman asked him to leave. Alone, he cried for the boy who'd been thrown out and the man who'd started believing in second chances. Sleep came in fits, dreams tangled with bus stops and empty promises. Wednesday brought clarity wrapped in pain. Roman went to work early, only to find Marcus waiting with a smug grin. "Told you. Boss plays everyone." Roman confronted him in the break room, voice low. "Stay out of my life." Marcus laughed. "Just looking out for you, man. He's using you." The words echoed Roman's fears. He quit on the spot. No notice, just collected his things and walked out. The subway ride home blurred with tears he refused to shed in public. At the apartment, he packed a bag, ready to disappear again. Elias showed up before he could leave, eyes red-rimmed. "Don't go. Please." What followed was raw honesty. Elias admitted he'd been scared, that his family's pressure to maintain the image had choked him for years. "But meeting you changed the math. I'd burn it all for us." Roman wanted to believe, but trust was shattered glass underfoot. They sat on the floor amid half-packed boxes, talking until the city lights flickered on. Elias shared bank statements, not to brag, but to prove the Billionaire label meant nothing without someone to share it with. Roman listened, then made his choice. "I need time, but I'm not running." They agreed to slow down, no pressure, just space to heal. The weeks that followed tested them both. Roman found freelance work again, sleeping on a friend's couch to prove he could stand alone. Elias respected the distance, but sent small gestures, coffee deliveries, notes reminding Roman of his strength. One rainy afternoon, Roman spotted Elias at the same bus stop where it all began, soaked and waiting. Their eyes met across the crowd. Roman crossed the street, heart pounding. "You came back." Elias smiled through the rain. "I never left." They didn't kiss, not yet, but the hug they shared carried forgiveness. Slowly, Roman moved back into the apartment. Trust rebuilt brick by brick through late-night talks and shared silences. Elias started therapy, learning to face his family's expectations without hiding. Roman reached out to his mother again, this time with Elias on the line for support. The call ended in tentative hope. Yet shadows lingered. Roman's old shelter friend, Jake, reappeared one night drunk and bitter, demanding money and spilling Roman's past struggles to Elias in a fit of jealousy. "He's just using you for the cash," Jake slurred. Elias stood firm, helping Jake into a cab with quiet dignity, but the incident reopened old wounds. Roman confronted his fear of being seen as broken. "I don't want your pity." Elias cupped his face. "I want your strength. The same one that paid for a stranger's bus." Summer faded into fall, painting the city in golds and reds that mirrored the warmth growing between them. Roman and Elias settled into a rhythm. Morning runs along the river, weekend markets, quiet evenings where Roman sketched while Elias read contracts aloud. The company thrived despite whispers, and Elias quietly shifted investor meetings toward authenticity, dropping hints about his personal life. Roman's freelance portfolio exploded. A gallery owner spotted his work at a pop-up and offered a small exhibit. Life felt balanced, until the big turning point arrived unannounced. Elias's parents flew in from California for a surprise board meeting. Traditional to the core, they expected the perfect son, straight, married, legacy-focused. Dinner at their hotel suite turned tense the moment Roman walked in as Elias's guest. "This is Roman," Elias said, hand steady on Roman's back. "My partner." The silence cracked like thunder. His father stood, face reddening. After everything we've built? His mother wept quietly. Elias didn't flinch. This is who I am. If the company suffers, so be it. But I won't lose him. Roman sat through the accusations, selfishness, betrayal of family values, feeling every word like a punch from his own past. When they left, Elias pulled him close in the elevator. I'm sorry you had to hear that. Roman shook his head. No. I'm proud of you. We face it together. The fallout hit fast. Tabloids caught wind. Tech billionaire comes out with Mystery Man, and stocks dipped. Investors called emergency meetings. Roman watched Elias fight boardroom battles by day and hold him by night, sacrificing millions in potential deals for truth. Doubt crept back one night when Roman overheard a late call, Elias turning down a major contract to avoid complications. Guilt gnawed. I'm costing you everything. Elias turned off the phone. You're giving me everything. But the real test came from within. Jake resurfaced sober this time, apologizing but revealing he'd sold the story to a gossip site for quick cash, the betrayal Roman had feared most. Photos of their early dates leaked, twisting innocent moments into scandals. Roman confronted Jake at the old shelter, voice steady despite the hurt. You were my friend. Jake hung his head. I was jealous. You got out. I didn't. Roman walked away without money or anger, just sorrow for the man he'd once been. Back home, he told Elias everything. Instead of rage, Elias hugged him. We don't hide anymore. Let them see us. The decision to go public together, a simple Instagram post of them at the Brooklyn Bridge, sparked both backlash and an outpouring of support. Messages flooded in from young gay men across the country, thanking them for visibility. Roman's gallery opening became the emotional peak. Friends, new colleagues, even his mother flew in. Elias stood beside him as cameras flashed, hand in hand without shame. In his speech, Roman spoke of the bus stop night, the stranger who'd become his anchor. Kindness started this. Honesty saved it. Tears flowed freely. Later, alone on the rooftop overlooking the city, Elias dropped to one knee, not with a ring, but with keys to a shared home upstate. No more hiding. Build a life with me. Roman pulled him up into a kiss that tasted of rain and redemption. The city lights blurred below, but for once the future felt clear. Winter wrapped New York in quiet white, but inside their new upstate, home warmth reigned. Roman's exhibit had led to commissions pouring in, and Elias restructured the company with inclusive policies, stocks rebounding stronger than before. Families softened over months. Roman's mother visited for Thanksgiving, awkward hugs turning genuine. Elias's parents sent a tentative card, the first crack in old walls. The two men hiked snowy trails where they'd first confessed love, talking dreams. Roman opening a youth shelter for LGBT kids kicked out like he was, Elias funding it anonymously. Challenges still rose, a hateful online campaign, a board member resigning in protest. But each time they chose each other, decisions rooted in growth, not fear. Roman learned to ask for help without shame. Elias learned vulnerability wasn't weakness. One crisp December evening, standing at the same bus stop during a city visit, Elias slipped something into Roman's hand. Not cash, but a small keychain engraved with their initials. Pay it forward forever. Roman laughed, pulling him close as snow fell softly. The journey hadn't been easy, but every misunderstanding, every sacrifice, had forged something unbreakable. Looking back across the years they'd built, Roman realized the truest acceptance came from within, mirrored in the man beside him. They walked into the future hand in hand, the city lights welcoming them home. True or false? One act of kindness from a stranger can truly rewrite two men's entire destinies in a world that still tests love like theirs.